Iron City built. It's time for the Steel City Nation podcast. Here's your host, Mark Maraday.
Good evening, Steel City Nation. My guest tonight, Dr. Joshua Funk, Division I lacrosse player at The Ohio State University, and the CEO and the brains behind Rehab to Perform. Josh, how you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing very well. Just want to say thanks for having me on tonight.
Oh, I'm thrilled to death to talk with you, man. I'm going to jump right in for you here, man. Tell us about your passion for lacrosse. I know that's your thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, growing up, we played a little bit of everything. It was one of those households where, if there was a season, there was a sport that had to be played. We weren't really pushed into anything in particular, but we just had to be physically active and we had to be a part of something. And lacrosse in 7th grade came my way after, playing football for the first time in 6th grade. I enjoy the physicality of football. A bunch of my friends for Seneca Sports Association.
Yeah.
We're playing Montgomery Village sports for lacrosse. And I jumped into it, loved it. Played football, basketball, and lacrosse all throughout high school. And lacrosse definitely it stood out for me. It was the sport that I thought I had the best chance to play at the highest possible level. It was a pretty easy choice going through the process and ending up at Ohio State.
Well, you come from, it's the state sport in Maryland. Let's face it. It is the Maryland sport. And, we know about the recruiting process for D1 football and basketball and some of the other sports, but what's the recruiting process like for lacrosse? Because you really don't hear much about that. Is it through the high school? Is it more of a club thing that you got recruited through?
Yeah, I think, it's changed a ton. I don't want to date myself too much here, but I went through that process about 16 years ago. So, it was kind of the start of the club team boom, really the start of the youth sports industry just taking off in general. When I was going through the recruiting process, we could still take a lot of visits summer before senior year and some even to senior year before making a decision. Nowadays, a lot of the top kids from a lacrosse standpoint are hitting their junior year, and even before they play their junior year, they're making decisions. So they've already been on the radar earlier. They're taking more of the unofficial visits. They're going and doing prospect days, getting recruited predominantly through the club circuit, unless you go to a traditional powerhouse high school. For the most part, it's very accelerated. I would say a lot like the other sports. There's increased specialization at earlier ages. There's more and more pressure to achieve a certain amount of mastery at an earlier age. And if you're one of those top players and you're trying to occupy what little scholarship money there is in the sport, you typically need to jump on those opportunities as early as possible. Waiting around till senior year just means potentially getting pennies on the dollar or potentially an invited walk-on spot. And not to say that there's anything wrong with that, because there's probably some really, really good late bloomers that have gone to the next level and done very, very well. But, if you're trying to help out mom and dad and you're trying to make that whole decision process a little bit easier,
sure,
you're certainly going to get pushed a little bit more towards a certain level of mastery in freshman and sophomore year before you hit that junior day.
Do you follow the PLL very close?
I do. I've been loving it. It's kind of crazy. I actually played with Paul in MV my first year of lacrosse. So
nice.
I actually played against him in I-270 basketball growing up as well. So there's definitely some familiarity there. And then I played in the NLL after my days at Ohio State.
Okay.
And we played against each other there as well.
For our fans who don't know out there, the PLL is the Premier Lacrosse League, and it was started by the Rabel brothers, who were from Montgomery Village, Maryland. My claim to fame, my one and only claim to fame, I came from Western Pennsylvania. I didn't know anything about lacrosse. Never really heard. I had one buddy who went away to Bates College, and he came home one time from college, and he had a lacrosse stick, and it was a wooden lacrosse stick, and he was trying to explain the game to us, and we're like, whatever, dude, let's play football. And my one and only claim to fame, after one of our football seasons, the athletic director at Watkinsville came up to me and said, "Hey, we don't have an assistant lacrosse coach. Would you mind doing this?" I said, I don't know a thing about it. He said, just use your coaching skill. They'll walk you through it. Well, that year I coached the Rabel brothers.
Okay.
It was pretty wild. It was really wild, actually. And I've been working really hard to get one or the other to come on the podcast. But there's some busy dudes, man. They're really doing well with pushing that league forward.
They're doing a great job. I've really, really enjoyed following both of their individual growth, I would say, just these past 2 years. Paul, more from a strategic side. Mike, I think, is heavily just involved more in the role as the chief executive. But I think they're really, really onto something. I think, although this year was tremendously positive, I can imagine there was probably some major challenges to really running a non-fan league and a non-fan oriented tournament. But it seemed like they made the most of it. From everything that I read, the metrics were very, very positive, and I have no reason not to be optimistic. I mean, I think that they've been very transparent about the previous league that is still going around, but I don't foresee that league really lasting and having the staying power. It just doesn't have the traction that the PLL does.
Right.
I think some of the people that are obviously connected, that are investors or behind the scenes with the PLL too, are really going to make a significant difference when push comes to shove as well.
I absolutely love the format they've used too. So they're taking teams to different places and playing and giving fans the opportunity to see these teams and all the different players play. I thought that was a tremendous way, and I love the way they did it this year. 2-3 weeks tops, and that was it. Here's your product. We're doing it for 2 or 3 weeks. We're going to give you all you can handle, and then that's it for this year. But thanks for coming.
Yeah, and they did a great job. No fans and no really, really major hiccups with regards to positive tests. So, they did a really, really good job of managing uncertainty, showing that they have a ton of, ability to adapt and be flexible given external circumstances that are largely outside of your control. So, I think for them, they should be tremendously proud and optimistic about the next year to come.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to Josh. Let's go back to his recruiting. You end up at Ohio State, but yet you live in Maryland. Nobody in Maryland came knocking at your door. University of Maryland wasn't there, or
there were some good opportunities. I got invited walk-on spots at Georgetown and Maryland, but invited walk-on means full price. Penn State is where both of my parents went. My dad played football at Penn State. My mom went to Penn State. I probably have 11 other family members, I think, that went to Penn State. So there was a huge pull there. But at the end of the day, I really felt like I had gone to Penn State already. To be honest, I just didn't feel like the experience was going to be tremendously new. And the fact that I was able to kind of, put together an academic and athletic scholarship at Ohio State was really, that was really the final straw for me. I actually committed on my visit. Put myself in a situation where it was a lot easier to go to my parents when I said, hey, you're going to pay only X amount of dollars for school, So the school was amazing. They really did not make lacrosse feel like a second-rate sport. We got to use the indoor turf facility. We worked out in the football weight room. We had access to things that many lacrosse athletes did not have at the Division I level. So I really, really enjoyed that. Ohio State, in my opinion, and granted I'm biased, but from an athletics program standpoint, is really unmatched. And I couldn't have asked for a better 4 years of lacrosse and just 4 years of being a student athlete.
That's fantastic. They do pull a lot from the Montgomery County area. I know I taught a girl a few years ago. She was lights out volleyball player, and she ended up over there. Just really happy for her too. That's what she always wanted. She wanted
Northwest girl, right?
What's that?
She was Northwest. She went to Northwest, right?
Janasia.
Yeah.
Lights out volleyball, man, and great young lady. Just a great young lady.
They had a good run there.
Say that?
They had a good run there. Didn't they win
they did.
2 or 3 state championships or something? Or
unfortunately for her, she lost this year, which was her sophomore year. But who knows going forward for her? I mean, the sky's the limit. I always told her that. I mean, she was like the Maryland volleyball player of the year for 2 or 3 years, Gatorade volleyball player of the year for 2 or 3 years. So, and her academics were unsurpassed by any as well. So, all right. So now we're doing Rehab to Perform. Talk about the life-changing event that led you down this path. I mean, as far as your injury that occurred to you that started you down this path.
Yeah, it was my sophomore year of college at Ohio State. I was running the ball down on a fast break. I went to throw the ball to somebody, and then I got hit from my right side. And I don't know if it was me being directly hit on my right shoulder or me falling then to the field, but somewhere in there, my shoulder had tremendous pain, and I was, kind of running off the field. My right arm was dangling at my side, and I really couldn't lift it. So just going through that process and really being somebody who's never really had a serious injury before, sidelining me for practice or game, I was going through the Rolodex of, hey, is it this? Is it that? Is it this? And it ended up being a torn labrum and torn rotator cuff. So I was pretty much told, hey, you're going to need surgery at the end of the season. You can play if you want to. Can't guarantee that it's going to be amazing in terms of how it feels or that you're going to be able to perform the way that you're usually used to, but you can give it a go. And pretty much I gave it a go, and I was actually able to play the whole season. There was parts in the beginning where I wasn't really able to shoot, and maybe I couldn't do things at 100%, but could still do enough to be effective and go out there and be a contributing member of the team. And by the time the end of the year came around, and this is through my work with, our athletic training staff, the head PT, the strength coach, the team physician, and our sport coaches, but my shoulder had actually really, really regained a lot of its function. If you were just talking about me moving my arm, I could do everything that I needed to do. The only thing that bothered me still was shooting as hard as possible, or some kind of physical contact that was full speed on the field. So Dr. Borchers, who actually was just involved in the Big Ten, returning to play, part of the, the board of physicians who was going through that decision-making process, he said, hey, you know what, just go get a second opinion. Might make you, feel a little bit better, put your mind at ease about any kind of decision that you make. And I came home, Dr. Barry Bowden, who's right here in Rockville, told me that he had seen shoulders that looked worse than mine do okay with physical therapy. So I tried physical therapy for a full summer, no lacrosse, and here I am. No surgery, never ran into any problems with regards to, performance, pain, anything of the like. I was able to still shoot over 100 miles per hour after that injury. So still had the ability to shoot very, very hard. Still had the ability to go out, play, make contact with other people, absorb contact. And that really was where I fell in love. I had originally started out being a biology major. I was pre-med. I thought I might want to be a PA, maybe an orthopedic surgeon, something along those lines. But the connectivity and the relationships that I think you can develop in physical therapy because of how much time you spend with people, it's unparalleled in healthcare. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the ability to work on things involving health and wellness with people. Already had this affinity to working out and going to the gym and taking care of myself. So it was just a natural fit.
That was, you stole my thunder. I was going to ask you, did you go to Ohio State? What'd you go there for? What was your major? That was where I was headed with it.
Oh, yeah. No, bio, man. And then, I went through the OChem. I went through biochem 511. I mean, just some traditionally very, very hard classes. And then find out that I can change my major and switch it to something that I enjoy a little bit more. And I was like, oh my gosh, it would have been nice to save myself the headache of organic chemistry lectures and organic chemistry labs. But hey, I'm better because of it. And, just was very happy to then come home, went to the University of Maryland for graduate school, and then graduated in 2011 before entering the real world.
Did you know that you immediately wanted to open a business, or where'd you want to go with it initially?
I think the biggest thing that I learned through grad school was that just the model that I was accustomed to from a rehab and just wellness standpoint was very, very different. Ohio State and the continuum of care that I received there, the manner in which things were communicated, the expertise of the people that I was working with was unique. But I wanted to bring that to the Gen Pop. I wanted to bring that to the everyday athlete. I wanted to bring that, your high school, your college athletes. So I started to kind of put the pieces together a little bit during grad school when I couldn't really find an internship outside of Athletes Performance, or Exos, where a lot of the NFL Combine guys go to prepare for the Combine. I didn't see anything that was focused on the general population. So knowing that I couldn't do that right when I graduated from grad school, I went through a process where I worked for some other private practice owners and spent a little bit of time also working for small business owners in order to learn a little bit about not just the physical therapy side of things during my day job, but also the fitness, the personal training, performance training side of the house, and make sure that I was able to blend those when I was finally ready in December of 2014.
So post-graduation, I know you said you had a lot of influence from people at Ohio State, but post-graduation, who really impacted you the most? Who gave you the most knowledge going forward so that you could start Rehab to Perform?
Gosh, that's a tough one. I'd have to honestly just say my parents, because I feel like the time, attention, and the consistency that they had over the years put myself where I was of the mindset that I could do it. Yeah. That I was in a position where I had the confidence, the resourcefulness. I had the overall just willpower to make sure that when I made a decision to do something, that it was going to get done. It wasn't going to be perfect, but I was going to be able to fail fast. I was going to be able to be resourceful for the people and opportunities that were present in my life. So I think without them, I probably never would have been in a position to take that leap, so to speak. After that, there certainly were some people that were very, very important to me as I recognized shortcomings that I had starting a business. I could give credit to, say, the Soldier Fit crowd with Danny Farrar and Dave Posen. Tremendously grateful for Sarge, Patrick Avon at Sarge Athletics for just spending time with me more from a fitness side of things, the fitness and wellness side of things. I've had, PT mentors here and there. I've had very, very good connections with regards to our small business community, great partners in the Chamber of Commerce. And then I think the single biggest thing that I did was probably the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program, which was run by Bluebird Company. We were fortunate to do coursework at the Carey School of Business at Johns Hopkins. And that really was such a pivotal program. And I think one of the moments where I realized that I had something special and we kind of took off. I mean, that was probably the spring of 2018. And it was right after we opened our second location. Things were a little bit crazy. And that really helped me put the pieces together and go through a relatively rapid growth period to get us to where we are today. And like we've been able to do, and take some lumps during the COVID restrictions.
How many hours a day are you working?
Then versus now is definitely different. I was, 80-hour weeks were bar minimum during that period of time in my life. I got my fiance out in the other room, and she'll be happy to hear me admit that, now it goes anywhere 50, 60, maybe a little bit more some weeks, but I would say that I have things a lot more under control. I have a lot of the right people around me, if not all of the right people around me. And we've become such a process-driven company that I have a lot more confidence in the gears that we have in place to allow the bus to keep moving. So my energy and my time has just become less because we've been more efficient.
Well, that's great. Are you bringing in any high school kids to kind of guide along, kids that are interested in it yet? Or have you gotten to that point with your...
I feel very, very strongly that not only do we deliver an exceptional service from a healthcare and particularly like physical therapy, sports rehab, concussion rehab, but our path to the profession or path to healthcare and the internship program that we have from high school to college to the DPT student, which is that graduate school student, is exceptional. We have fully committed to it. We have, on a normal year, a lot of high school kids regularly coming in Frederick County. It's a lot easier because they have the 4-class block scheduling.
Sure.
So they have a longer period of time where they can come into the office. Montgomery County, the kids were typically coming after school, or if they had a half-day schedule, they were able to come in as well. But we currently, even right now, have high school students coming to the office from Southern Montgomery County all the way up to Frederick County to spend time to figure out whether or not this is something that they enjoy, and ideally to determine whether or not that this or healthcare is the right fit for them. And it's something that I look back on my experience. I was able to confirm that I wanted to do PT after hurting my shoulder and then spending more time in the clinic behind the scenes instead of being a patient. So we really enjoy that opportunity. Welcome it to anybody out there who's listening to this, excuse me, or anybody who is in charge of young people and the direction they might be going in.
At Northwest, my job actually is to I teach PE and health, but I teach first aid classes. So I do the CPR, AED, basic first aid skills. What I need to do is, when we get back to normal life or semblance of what it used to be, I need to have you come in and talk to a lot of these kids, because I think a lot of them take my class because they have that interest. I've had a lot of kids come through that talk about getting into the medical field, but they just don't know what they want to do. They don't know what aspect of it they want to reach out to. So, that you having a program in place might be something that would be very influential to them.
Yeah, I'm meeting with one of your football players on Thursday to talk to him a little bit about it. Actually, after talking to the football team through Coach Noob. Coach Noob had me in talking to the guys recently. So that was productive, just trying to really get them to appreciate, hey, this year took away something that you love, football.
Right.
And at some point, that game will go away with regards to the competitive side of it in your life.
Sure.
So hopefully getting them to think about investing in themselves beyond just the football player, making sure that their life carries various identities, and that they're continually moving forward and looking at that next step in their life. So I had some good communication with some of the athletes afterwards. And, like I said, I've got one of the guys that I'm meeting with on Thursday here to help him kind of put the pieces together a little bit.
That's fantastic to hear. We got a lot of great kids that come through there with a lot of high aspirations for life, and they go on and they are successful. What's your business approach currently for your business? How are you attacking the community with your business approach?
That could go so many different directions. I could go on a marketing plan conversation. I could go just in terms of how we try to integrate ourselves in the community. But if I were to go to like big picture, just trying to make sure that we are identifying with principles that I would say align with conscious capitalism. Yeah. I think a lot of times capitalism gets a very, very bad rap. And unfortunately, it makes sense in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
We don't want to be transactional. We want to be transformational. So if we start just there, how can we do things to be more invested in the world around us outside of, hey, here are 4 walls. When you need us, come to us. So we're trying to do things to be valuable beyond our 4 walls, not necessarily need some kind of monetization associated with our efforts.
Sure.
And ideally, leave the world a better place. So how can we get involved at the school? Well, I can't count how many career days. I think it's over 40 that I've done in the past couple of years. Yeah. Coming out, speaking to classes, hosting interns. We've done a lot of talks, seminars, and workshops for youth sports programs. We've also donated finances to certain nonprofits that align, well with either people that I know they align well with people in our company and things that they're passionate about, or they're people that I know through various connections and people that I believe in. So those 2 different things. We're very involved in the chamber. We try to be very, very involved from a medical community standpoint. So there's a lot of different areas in which we try to just make sure that we're connected, we're involving ourselves, we're being a part of the greater puzzle that is society right now. And we're not just here when people get hurt. So those baseline principles of conscious capitalism could tie over to how we treat our staff, an empowerment model to the workplace, and making sure that we're not necessarily talking at, but we're always talking with. When somebody makes maybe makes a mistake or something like that, recognizing that people generally want to do well, and it's probably not the person's fault, and it's probably the processes and the guardrails in which they're functioning in. So just really thinking about things with a different viewpoint and perspective, in which we're trying to view what we're doing as a part of this greater ecosystem, as opposed to just something that's consuming, right? We're consuming patients if we're just being transactional and we're focusing on what's going on in that four walls. So I don't know if that was the exact direction that you wanted me to go in, but
that's the perfect answer, because what you basically said is you took all this knowledge that you've been building over the years and you developed your own model with it, and now you're reaching out in every branch possible to get people involved and give them direction based on what you do with your business. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to come to you, but you put them in a good position to be involved with you because you're reaching out to them and keeping them involved in productive society. So I got it. I thought that was a fantastic answer. I just wanted to know where you were headed with it, because I follow you on Twitter. I know some of the people that you're involved with. I know some of the people that you volunteer your time with. I know some of the places you donate your money. And, I tip my hat to you for a lot of those things that you do, which would have me really excited to have you on here to talk with you. All right, so let's do this. I blow my knee out. I tear my ACL, my MCL, whatever. I come to you and I say, look, Josh, I really don't want to go through the process of surgery. Can you help me? Can you help me?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that I can do in a situation like that is just tagging in friends. I think that when you go about your business in any industry, you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. In this particular situation, I would only be as good as my referral network. So you do those particular things to your ligaments. I'm mostly tagging somebody in who's going to go through the process of the MRI, setting up the surgery, framing up expectations for you, doing a tremendous job about talking about graft options with you, what the early post-operative situation looks like. And then that's where I get tagged in. And we start to go through the rehabilitation process, ideally frame up what the early part looks like with you, frame the middle part up, and give you an idea of long-term expectations. We do everything from being transparent about what your cost responsibility is going to be, making sure that we're aligning with one of the things that we value, which is cost transparency. Nobody likes surprise medical bills. And then putting things in front of you that allow you to understand if you're making progress according to certain expectations. We'd also have an email drip campaign according to your diagnosis code that when you started with us would provide you with supplemental education and resources so that you could consume some of this stuff on your own time, both in text and video form. So by the time you're done and you're going through what is probably going to be around a 9-month rehabilitation process, you're empowered to do things differently. You're very, very confident about all of the different steps that both the team has taken with you and that you've taken outside of the office. And ideally, you're going to be confident that you're going to be able to go back into other activities that you've always enjoyed and perform at a certain level in which hopefully you're not constantly thinking about what may or may not happen to that leg again.
Is it still taking about a year to get the strength of that knee back to where it needs to be? Or has, through the process of technology and everything, has that improved and cut some of that time off?
The time surrounding, if we just talk about ACL rehab, the 9-month mark is a significant cutoff point. So if you can get past the 9-month part, the literature changes drastically with regards to the level of outcomes that you're going to experience. Now, time is not everything, but time, especially with regards to surgery and a graft and new things going on in your body, it is a part of the pie. If you have certain prerequisites in place, you could get it done sooner. You might also have certain external pressures in which you feel like you need to get it done sooner. Yeah. So sometimes you just have to make sure that you're having informed conversations with people, letting them know, time and criteria, because most likely it's kind of a mix of the two, and putting them in a situation where they're at least informed as much as possible about where they are with regards to the benchmarks and prerequisites, which is the criteria side, and then that time side of the house as well. So it's a little bit more multifactorial. It's a little bit more of a complicated answer. We definitely try to make sure that we're hitting around that 9-month mark, but also appreciating that for high school and college athletes, there are certain other pressures externally as well as internally that are going to push the envelope. Everybody wants to push the envelope. Everybody wants to be that person that was a little bit more of an outlier. And people don't like waiting. We are an impatient species. So, also, you appreciate not everybody's Adrian Peterson, right? You got some people that push the envelope, and by 4.5 months, it's like, did this person even have an injury? Right. And sometimes you do have young people who maybe haven't trained a whole lot and maybe have a certain amount of apprehension surrounding their injury. There's certain socialized or psychological factors that are preventing them from maybe feeling confident to pushing into new things. So sometimes it's not the physical factors that prevent them, but it is other things going on that will push them more towards a 12-month timeline. So, it is really, really multifactorial. So, as I mentioned earlier, it's our job to do our best to just inform people about the different considerations and ideally put them in a position where they can make decisions that are comfortable based on the information presented to them.
And I asked that question just because I know there are so many people that, people who listen to this may know somebody or may encounter something. And I just want them to understand that coming from a professional standpoint, that it's not that easy. You've got to be committed to getting better. You've got to want to get better, and you've got to be patient with it. I have an 18-year-old daughter who blew her knee out, ACL, MCL, when she was 15. She's 14. She stepped on a girl in a basketball game. The girl was behind her. She went up for rebound, came down, stepped on her, boom, crushed her knee. And she did an amazing job, rehabbing, and she worked very, very hard to get back to where she is. And now she's a college athlete. She's playing college softball. But I think people need to understand it's all about the commitment and what you see yourself achieving.
You got to show up. Especially for that age athlete, you almost have to convince them that it is 9 to 12 months of them literally being able to work out to get in the best possible shape of their life. Because ACL rehab honestly looks like training after about the first month or two. It literally looks like a progressive workout as you go through the process. And really what you're trying to do is you're trying to build a better athlete. You're trying to build somebody that has certain athletic qualities as you go throughout these progressions and as you go throughout the time associated with that rehabilitation process. So for somebody like your daughter that's going to embrace the process, she's going to be committed every day that she shows up. She's going to do everything that she's asked to her best ability. What she's asked to do at home, she's going above and beyond there. And really it's just that continual, journey of 1% better every day, right? Being better than yesterday, and some of the things that people hear about so often. So it's no different. Ideally the physical building goes hand in hand with the psychological building as well, because we have to make sure that as the physical qualities build, that psychological, the confidence, right? Their ability to think that they're going to go into something, experience success, and not be so concerned about injuring themselves again. So I would argue they kind of feed each other, and especially if you have a good support or a good medical professional that's in your corner throughout the process, you'll be experiencing a lot of the same things and the highs of the high that your daughter has experienced by playing college athletics.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny to hear you talk about get 1% better. I swear, if I had a motto aside from what mine is, it would have to be getting 1% better or making yourself better every day. You were probably, out of all the guests I've had, you're probably number 10 or 11 who has said that in the theme of, talking about life in general. You just got to want to get better at what you're doing in life, whether it's rehabbing or whether it's, going to school or working your job or, whatever the case may be. So it's so awesome to hear that come from you as well. It just continues to reaffirm that, part of the thing you got to do in life is you want to get better. You want to get better. 5 years from now, where do you see Dr. Joshua Funk?
Man, that's a great question. I think the only guarantee there is Rehab to Perform will continue to look different. It'll continue to grow. I will probably have one, if not two little people in my life after my fiance and I get married next year. And outside of that, hopefully I'm just a little bit wiser, along with being a little bit older. I'm able to be a little bit more impactful and influential, but 5-year goals are always, I'd say, a little bit challenging for me. I typically do a good job of these 1 year or 2 year, goals, if you will, or these sprints, as I'll call them sometimes. But I think from a professional and personal standpoint, I'll continue to improve the balance in my life and get to a point where things are getting even smoother with regards to running a company and just incorporating the more personal life. There's no secret. When you start a business, the amount of sacrifice, and I will bring up that word a ton if I talk about the early years, you have sacrifices on the personal side, and they are to invest fully in the professional side, and hopefully the seesaw will get more and more balanced during that 5-year period.
Do you want to see yourself kind of working and maybe dealing with professional athletes more, or collegiate athletes, or do you like the mix that you have going on right now in your business?
Yeah, I think for us, we get a lot of college athletes in the summertime. You take our Bethesda office, we literally had people from, I think, every Power 5 football school except for the Pac-12 this summer.
Okay.
Including kids from, Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Clemson, Maryland, Wake Forest, NC State. We had Kent State. Drawing a blank on the Big 12 school, West Virginia. We had the full gamut of college athletes, if I'm just talking about football alone.
Wow.
That's not even including all of the other sports. So from a college athlete standpoint, I think we see that a lot. Professional athletes sometimes are, looking for different things, different environments. Not to say that I haven't worked predominantly with NFL players, Ravens guys, Chicago Bears, I think, Green Bay Packers, Raiders, Patriots. I've worked with a couple different, guys on NFL teams.
Sure.
I enjoy working with the guys on NFL teams, but some of them are a little bit harder to buy into routine. And some of them don't value time as much. So I've certainly had some negative experiences as well. I like working with general people, man. I think there's a lot more potentially synergy there sometimes. It's also a whole heck of a lot less people tugging them in 15 different directions.
Yeah.
So providing an environment where somebody's investing in the relationship between the two of us with a little bit more clarity, as opposed to, let's say you're a professional athlete, I'm working with you, and 15 other people are in your DMs about different workouts or coming to work out with them or doing this. So I just think the amount of noise sometimes when talking about professional athletes can be challenging. It's not to say that the right person, and I can think of somebody that I feel very, very strongly about. He was in the NFL for 10 years. I really enjoyed working with him. He was a professional in every sense of the word. So situations like that where you can get somebody to kind of mesh with you and buy into that routine and plan. But I can't complain, man. I mean, we see a lot of people that are highly invested in their personal, well-being and their fitness, and we have a lot of adherence to the plan of care or adherence to the home programs that they're doing. So when I think of the kind of people that I get to spend time with every day, it's people that are already invested. They have the athlete's mindset. They want to improve themselves.
It makes your job easier.
Yeah,
I mean,
I can't ask for much more. I cannot complain about who we're seeing. We're seeing amazing people every day. We see active adults. We see adults that want to be more active, and we see competitive athletes from, the professional level all the way down to age 8. So it's a great mix.
That's fantastic. Share some of the things that you've immersed yourself in the community. I know you do a lot. You talk some about it, but what are some specific things that you've done in the community since you've really got going here?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll probably speak more to a newer initiative for myself. I'll go 2 different directions with this. One, I joined the board. I've never been on a board before. So I joined a board that is the Primary Care Coalition.
Okay.
It is a group of healthcare organizations in Montgomery County that serve the underserved. So I'm on their, more like fundraising and I'm drawing a huge like fundraising, financial, promotional committee. So trying to do things just to kind of get the word out there, attract people to support the organization, and ideally just put my healthcare hat and some of the things that I've been able to do at Rehabbing and Performing that I think are a little bit more unique, and to drive change in the organizations that are a part of that coalition. And then outside of that, the biggest thing that I've been focused on this year, and I should say that we had certain initiatives prior to this year, and with everything going on surrounding social injustices, I would say that it's become even more of an urgency and needing to have more clearly defined objectives and goals, but making sure that the representation in healthcare improves. Healthcare has never been very good representation of society, and now it's definitely not. If you look at physical therapy school, 3% of physical therapy students are Black and 2% are Hispanic. That is 5% out of your 100. So 95 other students are identifying with other races. And if you look at outcomes, there are ties with healthcare outcomes to people working with providers, or at least being in an environment where they see providers that look like them. Trust being a factor. So if we can be a driving force for people, especially these young people at the high school level, to get them into healthcare more, to make sure that they're thinking about being a nurse practitioner, a PA, right? Potentially an orthopedic, a physician, a radiologist, right? A physical therapist, an occupational therapist, all of these different professions that are largely very fulfilling in at least an even demand over the years to come, or potentially increasing demand, and do things to drive improved outcomes in the healthcare system. So created a nonprofit with a group of people in my life. It's called Unlimited Potential. Jared Boyd, who's one of our PTs, he's now with the Memphis Grizzlies now, helped create the logo. And we'll have more events and initiatives that will be transparent as the months go on. So those are probably the 2 biggest things that I'm involved in right now. But outside of that, I've got a lot of friends that are involved in the nonprofit scene. So trying to do things either through, donating my time or donating finances to really support them. I don't need to go in and do everything myself. Sometimes appreciate that sometimes there are other people in the community that they need a little extra hand. They need a little extra support. They need my network of people potentially, and just doing what I can to plug in wherever is needed.
I think that word right there that you just hit, network, as you continue to build that, it's just going to be amazing things that come down the road for you in your 5-year goal that you maybe don't have because you have those shorter 1-2 years at a time. your 5-year goal is just going to blossom because of that network that you can continue to build. And being on a board, that can't do anything but to create great things for you going forward, right? I mean, I would think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, you know, it's like sometimes I ask myself, am I doing enough? And then the other days I ask myself, you know, am I doing too much? So I guess if I continue to ask my questions, at least I'm asking an important question of myself. And I'll probably never be bored, but sometimes it is. It's about streamlining your efforts to have maximal impact. And I think this year, whether or not it's things surrounding social justice or COVID or a combination of the two, or just my overall maturity as an individual or business owner. But I've just continually asked myself, where can I be most effective with regards to my time? Because I think we can all agree that a year like this year, there's multiple different areas where we always want to have a response, we always want to have an opinion, or we always want to say, why don't we do this? And sometimes I just sit there and I go, I can't really do anything about that. Or I can't really do anything about that. Like, I can't do everything about everything.
Yeah, I agree.
I have to eventually like refine my efforts and go, you know what? This is actually something that, based on everything that I bring to the table right now, that I can put some time into, and it actually it'll blossom. Versus this over here, I could spend all the time fertilizing it, putting the water on, putting extra soil stuff, whatever. And I don't have what it takes to really be maximally impactful over there. So, yeah, I mean, that's just a lot. You know, it's been a huge year for reflection, personal reflection.
As a teacher by trade, that's how I feel each and every day, and that's probably one of the most difficult pieces of the whole COVID thing going on, and all the things that are going on in our society today. The most difficult thing is I'm not there for those kids to lean on like they normally are, and just like you, I just pick what I can actually do, and I don't try and spread myself thin. Because if I try and spread myself thin, just like you may not reach the people that need to be reached. You may not be there for the people that need you to really be there for them. So great response. We share the same philosophy on that, just coming from two different angles of it. If you would not have gone to school for physical therapy, what do you think your career choice would have been?
Gosh, people ask me that sometimes, and I can go two different ways. One, I don't know if I would have made maybe like a lawyer, but more of like a consultant, and somebody that would negotiate a little bit and close deals. Sometimes I also think, just in my role, I could be a CEO of some kind of other company. I just think that my brain is continually working in problem-solving mode. So my ability to kind of come in and maybe be a consultant as smaller companies. I love like Marcus Lemonis's show, like The Profit. I love stuff like Shark Tank, but I know that was kind of a multiple choice answer that I gave you there.
Yeah,
but,
okay, I get it.
Yeah. So that would probably be one of those.
That's an interesting answer, though, because you're definitely two different opposite ends of the spectrum to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So I do this segment at the end. It's called Decade Definers. I'm going to change it up just a little bit for you. Tell me about the 3 most prolific injuries that you've helped to rehab back to the level they needed to get to, and the gratification you got from that.
Man, that is a very, very good question. 3 different injuries, 3 different people. That's going to be so challenging.
There had to be some people out there who really needed you in the end, and you got so much gratification out of watching that person just get through it and go back to performing at the level that they wanted to be back to.
Man, I'm not going to be able to answer that, so I'll do my best to just speak in generalities.
Okay.
And I think for me, it's just harder to value any one thing over any other. I mean, the amount of people that I've worked with over the years who have seen their life potentially shrunk. It's like somebody drops a ceiling on your head when you get an injury. Your potential is diminished. So, everything from the high school athlete that had aspirations of playing college to the college athlete that has had aspirations of really playing a lot the next year, or the active adult who's, largely their social life was catered around certain sports, or the person who maybe is reaching the later stages of their life that have an unfortunate setback where maybe they can't be as active as they wanted. They can no longer hike. They can no longer play with their kids. But I think the people that I enjoy working with the most sometimes are people who have had a tremendous amount of misinformation from other medical professionals, where those people have also dropped the ceiling on their head.
Okay.
And some people who have potentially put themselves in a situation where maybe they're not believing in themselves quite like they normally would. So some of these external factors where there's still a ton of, misinformation in the healthcare world. And then the psychological and sometimes, these social factors that will put people in a situation where they're maybe more pessimistic. But it's so hard to just pick three. It would probably be devaluing all of the other people that I've spent time with that probably thought that their particular injury was extremely meaningful as well.
What's your level of gratification once they walk out of there, shake your hand on a non-COVID time, shake your hand and say, thank you. You've really given me back. You've helped me get back what I really, really wanted to get back to.
Yeah, I think for us, that's graduation time. We make a big deal, almost gamifying graduation. So that's their last visit with us.
Yeah.
They do a picture, they get a t-shirt, they get to kind of fill out this funny graduation day sign with maybe some hashtags, and
nice.
They get to kind of put a title behind what they would call themselves. So, it's a special day. It's something that if you were coming in and we were working together, it was like our mutual agreed upon goals had been met. You had come to me with your problem. I had kind of gone through the needs analysis. We kind of figured out where you want to get to, and it's working, back and forth on those mutually established goals. And when we get to that point, I think it's pretty special. And, people light up, and they often will stay very, very connected with us. And they, are extremely grateful, to be quite honest. So I enjoy any opportunity where I can give somebody a new outlook on life and what they can do after surgery. Sometimes, especially for some people that maybe haven't been working out for a while, or sometimes even young people who experience their first injury, doing things that they never thought that they could do in their life.
That's awesome. Hey, I want to thank you again, Dr. Funk, for coming on the show. You've been very insightful, and I wish you nothing but continued success with Rehab to Perform going forward. Good luck with you and all you do.
I appreciate it, man. We've got a very, very big 2021 in store for our team. We're feeling pretty bullish, like the stock market this year, about our prospects. So I can't wait, and I'm excited to see what that year has in store for our team.
Well, good luck going forward, okay?
All right. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for your time.
Yep.